You ready to go? Perfect. Awesome. Okay, we're going to do a countdown because I like to pretend to sound professional. And three, two, one. We're recording. Viviana, hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's still chilly here in Texas, but the weather's getting better and it's going to warm up today. So
Ah,
warm weather makes me happy because turtles are out. And turtles are
fantastic. Yeah, no, that's
spring
awesome.
is here.
Yes, spring's coming here as well. I got really lucky on a shoot recently to try and find these Spanish snakes.
Hmm.
Oh, I got so lucky. The guy was saying that this isn't normal for this time of year. We found this huge, like 4 point something foot snake,
Oh,
which is
awesome.
he said they can grow up to about 6 foot,
All right.
and but to find something that was like 4 foot plus was amazing.
That's a good day,
It's a
especially when
good
it's still
day.
cooler and it's still not
Mm,
typical for them to be out and moving yet.
yeah, like I haven't seen a snake like that in the wild, like ever. I found like a few, like a dead Burmese python in Florida,
Oh,
but
okay.
to see something alive of that size was really cool. And it was making such an amazing sound, like the hissing.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. Before we begin, because I can rattle off about that for ages. Can you tell the viewers who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Viviana Ricardes, and I'm vice president of a conservation research nonprofit based here in Texas.
Hmm.
And we basically study the ecology, natural history, and conservation aspects of all the species that live here in Texas.
Oh wow! So
That's the short part of our what we do.
that's a huge short part. You mean like all of the different species of turtles, or all the different species of animals?
Turtles.
So you
So yeah,
special?
our
Okay, yeah.
organization's called Texas Turtles.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Very strict. Yeah. And so it's very, and then we only really do freshwater. We don't work with
Okay.
sea turtles. A lot of
Hmm.
people think, sea turtles are quite far away from us. We're
Yeah.
mostly in the north, what we call refer to as the North Texas or the Dallas, Fort Worth, DFW
Hmm.
area of Texas is where myself and my colleague, who's president of the organization, we live here, and then our secretary lives down in Central Texas.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
we mostly, like I said, it's all freshwater and tortoises type.
Awesome. Now, wouldn't like if you're from like our area of the world, that would seem like you study like the terrapins, or not a terrapin. What would they be called? Like the
The
smaller
freshwater
turtle.
turtles. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah. What kind of
freshwater
turtles
turtles.
would? What kind
The
of?
ponds, the lakes, the
Hmm.
streams, the creeks.
Yeah. What kind of? I don't know. I just want to build up on that intro a bit because it's a lot bigger than people think. Because I know, especially if you live in the UK and you live here in Europe, you'll think about these. We have like a few, not in the UK as much, but here in Europe, there's a few little different types of pond turtles, but
Right.
there's not as many different species. So I just want to make sure that people who are listening to this who are from Europe know that this in Texas, it's a big job. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different types.
Texas is huge, like everyone's heard. The whole saying, Texas
Mm,
really, really is big. So for us to do a lot of work, we do a lot of driving,
yeah.
and we're lucky because Texas is like 34 different types,
Hmm.
different species, different taxa, depending on who you're asking and how people want to, break up taxa. 34 different types of turtles. And
Yeah.
so that's a lot of work and there's a lot we still don't know
Hmm.
about our everyday turtles, the species that people think are common or that may, take for granted as being abundant. So there's just a lot to still do and a lot happening in the turtle conservation world
Yeah.
and for us here in Texas.
No, I just really wanted to like throw a dart at that because there's loads of different types
Right.
of them in Texas.
The southeastern portion of the U.S. is like the second highest turtle diversity in the world.
In the
So
world.
Southeast Asia has a huge diversity of different turtle species and taxa, and then so southeastern parts of the U.S. So we're up there as far as
Yeah.
turtle species per state. It's
Wow.
really really cool.
I
Really,
didn't
really
know it was like the second most diverse place on the planet. That's
as far as
that's
turtles.
crazy. As far as turtles go. Yeah,
Turtles.
yeah.
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 Big.
That's
Afraid
still
it's gonna
pretty
be all
crazy
in
though.
turtle mode.
That's still pretty crazy. That's a lot of that's a lot of turtles
A lot of
to be in one place.
taxa.
Yeah.
Very
That's
cool. Yeah.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Can you name off some different types you get there? Some of the different animals we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. So what's really awesome about Texas is that we have 4 different types of endemic turtles, meaning they're
Hmm.
found nowhere else in the world.
Oh.
We've got the Kegel's map turtle, which is a
Hmm.
really, really neat, beautiful, fascinating map turtle. Not a lot is known about them.
Hmm.
They have a really, really small range in the central part of Texas. The Texas cooter,
Hmm.
um, also central Texas, and can range all the way up to the Colorado River drainage, kind of up towards the Panhandle. I probably should have had a map. I could be pointing it out.
Nah, that's all right. It's
um,
okay.
it's a bigger. They have a bigger range. So the Texas Kegel's map turtle, Texas cooter, the Texas map turtle, also central Texas,
Hmm.
and then the Guadalupe spiny softshell, which is a subspecies of a softshell turtle that's in the Guadalupe River drainage and also
Yes.
in the central part of Texas. And so
Awesome.
that's really neat that we have endemics that are not found anywhere else in the world, and we can study those
That's
specifically.
that's really cool. I saw a soft shell turtle in Florida.
Oh yeah, those would
I
be
was
big. Those
Oh
get
yeah, it was really weird because I was riding my bike. I was riding the bike or the rental bike that I had around the Everglades, and I was just taking a look around. There's this lovely little path I was following, um, and I was just taking a little ride around, and I saw this dirt flying by the side of the path.
yeah.
So I'm getting off my bike, and I've got my camera with me, and I look at it, and there's this huge turtle that looks like it's got like skin on it, and it's got
Yeah.
this the strangest face. It was like I spent about maybe 30 minutes with it photographing it, but I had to leave because the weather was so bad.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
really,
probably a
really cool
Florida.
looking.
The Florida soft shells, those native to Florida, of course. Everything in Florida is invasive, as you did
Yeah.
another podcast on all the
Yes,
invasive
yeah,
stuff in Florida.
I learned about that with
Everything
Zach.
there,
Yeah.
but the Florida soft shell is a huge, huge
Mm,
species of soft shell turtle.
yeah,
It's
it was
awesome.
cool looking. It was a really awesome looking animal, and it was in this part of the park where in the Everglades where I think a lot of no, I saw a lot of people go there. So and I saw quite a few of them, but no, they were really cool. Sorry, my phone has the questions I'd like to ask you about. Um, oh no, what's happened? Yeah, how as we talked a little bit about the what's in Texas. I kind of want to ask, how did you get into this?
Sure. So it's an interesting story, and there's a long version and a short version.
Yes.
Which one you want?
Oh, let's have the long version. That's what the people are here for.
Well, like many kids, right? A lot of this
Mm,
started when we were really young.
yeah.
I think everyone I've talked to that's been into animals and wants to work with conservation or nature in any aspect, like say even hunters,
Yeah.
has
Hmm.
this biophilia, this love for the outdoors, nature,
Yeah.
wilderness. So I was very, very little just obsessed with anything
Mm,
animal creature related, whether it was insects, um,
yeah.
birds, anything in my backyard, and then it specifically became herpetology and
Hmm.
turtles.
Yeah.
So I think finding that one turtle, like finding a turtle crossing the road one day, my dad picking it up,
Mm,
becoming completely fascinated with why they do what they do, where is it going, why does it have a shell, why does it look like this,
hmm.
all those aspects of why, I guess, is what got
Yeah.
me hooked. So back in the 90s as a kid, I didn't have social media. There
Mm,
was no internet. So it was
yeah.
encyclopedias and books and a resale bookstore that when we used to go visit it all the time.
Hmm.
So as a kid, I just kind of had this crazy, obsessive, amazing interest for all things animals. And I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to work with animals,
Mm,
but I didn't know how or what
mm,
or what was going to happen. So I kind of just had it in me to where I'm going to learn as much as I possibly could as a
yeah.
kid through books
Mm,
and see what happens. And but then there was also an aspect, I guess, in my little kid brain that where I didn't think it was really possible. I didn't
yeah.
know anybody else like me.
Mm,
I didn't know anybody that was into snakes or lizards or especially turtles.
mm,
I didn't see anybody else that looked like me.
yeah.
I've said that one quite a few times. So growing up, going to high school, I always still had that knowledge and obsession, but I kind of went with the rest of
Yeah.
society. What society told me is like, well, you need to go to college and get a job, and you need to have a job to do this, this, and
Yeah.
this.
Mm.
And so I kind of didn't think it was possible until you fast forward to like 2007.
Oh
I
wow.
was
Okay.
Googling, yeah, I was Googling I think I was dating someone at the time, and I said, pull up a picture of any turtle, and I can tell you what kind of turtle it is.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of a weird thing to tell someone you're dating, and they're like,
No.
okay. So
Oh no.
I started because we were talking. Turtles came up, and I was telling them how like I knew a lot about turtles, but I kind of kept it all secret
Yeah,
for
yeah,
many
yeah.
years. And who was I going to talk about it with? You know, my parents were sick of hearing me talk about turtles.
Uh,
You know, my family had put up with me having box turtles and
yeah.
turtles and doing all that stuff and going to reptile expos and all that.
Mm,
So I was naming off species of turtles, just like IDing them
yeah.
for someone. And the website we pulled up was called texasturtles.org.
Mm,
And it was a website that was made by herpetologist Carl Franklin.
mm-hmm.
And when I started reading about him, I found out that this herpetologist was here locally, like where I grew up in the same town,
Mm.
same area, right at a local university. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's somebody else like me. That was my moment, like, oh my gosh, there's other people like, you know, out there
Yeah,
like me.
that's actually crazy because sorry to interrupt you there. That's just kind of sunk in
Yeah.
because like how I found some of the folks who I've done recent work with is I googled them. But obviously, when you if you haven't grown up with that, and even in did you say 2007?
I was closer to
Yeah,
2007 when that
it
website.
wasn't even that good then. So yeah, you
No,
had to
right. There was
actually.
no I mean, Facebook was just kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it just started to become a
Yes.
thing.
Sorry, that took a while to sink in then actually. That took me a while to process
Yeah.
that. Of course, yeah, you would have no idea what any of like herpetology or the study
Right.
of turtles even was. No,
I had
can't.
encyclopedias
Yeah.
and books and
Mm,
no way to find anybody else
yeah.
back as a kid. Like you really don't. I mean, you might get lucky and see a flyer somewhere,
Mm,
and if you're just not at the right place at the right time, seeing a flyer posted somewhere about a herb society meeting or anything like that, you don't know.
you
I don't
don't
even
know.
know how my dad found the flyers to like the reptile expos he took me to. You know,
Yeah.
and that's a different aspect of growing up that I learned what I did and didn't like when it came to herpetology, and you know we can go down
Yeah.
that rabbit hole some other time or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I found out that there was somebody else like me, and then I found that there was a Facebook page called Texas Turtles,
Yeah.
and back then I kind of just followed it. I didn't really want to say anything because you know how
Hmm.
Facebook is, everyone gets in fights, and I
Yeah.
just
Oh
kind of was
yeah.
like would watch it. I was just gonna watch it for a while, like oh my gosh, I knew what all these species were, and it
Mm,
started bringing back like man, I remembered how much I really wanted to do this as a from you know for the rest of my life and how much I really wanted to do turtles and
yeah.
anything herpetology related. So
Yes.
I followed all the stuff and
Hmm.
got really lucky one day to where there was a turtle survey happening down in Central Texas. Carl had come back from a turtle survey that was put on by another organization
Hmm.
and posted these pictures of these canoes and these bins full of Texas cooters
Mm,
and full of all these other turtles where they were measuring and pit tagging and collecting all this data off of them and doing this you know quarterly study. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get to one of these. Like
yeah.
this is everything I dreamed of. Like I didn't even know this was going on. So because Carl posted that on his Texas Turtles Facebook page, I was able to find a date that I could go to. I packed up my car, left early because I was living in North Texas. It's like a 4 hour drive. I left
Oh
like at
God.
3 in the morning, four
Oh
in the morning, drove, got there, didn't know a single person, like kind of to figure out like, am I gonna get along with these people? Are these people gonna be not knowing
yeah.
what to expect? Here for this turtle survey. And the person I was talking to on the time said, I was like, say, hey, I'm here. Where is everybody? He said, oh, a guy named Carl Franklin's going to pull up in a university van. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's him.
Ah,
That's the guy
yeah.
I've been following and learned about and been watching
Mm,
all his turtle stuff on the Facebook page because it was all natural history. It wasn't pet related. It
no.
wasn't, it was just very natural history, ecology focused, which is what
Yeah.
we keep our Facebook and Instagram to be, to mostly be, and
Yeah.
what, like the science behind it. And so when I found out that he was going to be there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be
Mm,
really neat. I'm going to finally get to meet someone that I'd, well, you know, watched their research and their work they put out. And that
hmm.
was kind of it. Like I met Carl, and then he was up here in the North Texas area. I started helping
Yeah.
him out, kind of volunteering, doing whatever, and we would just chat. And he kind of gave me binoculars and a snake hook and some books. And like, here, go find this or
Oh,
go
that's
look at
really cool.
that.
That's really
And
cool.
from then we just continue to work together and start to publish little natural history notes, and
Mm.
just to continue my knowledge continue to grow, having an
Yeah.
awesome mentor and working together. And then Texas Turtles became a 501c3 nonprofit.
Awesome.
When was it, 2019? So all that
Wow.
time, so we just
Wha-
got 20. We just got it. He had kind of always had it to where one day it would be a nonprofit, but like the stars aligned, I
Yeah.
guess, 2019 for us to create the nonprofit. It's like, okay, this is what we want to do.
Mm.
We both have the same, we met our secretary, same page,
Yeah.
met a bunch of other like-minded turtle nerds and created
Mm.
this turtle family that kind of developed out of all of it. And so now
Hmm.
we've got this awesome nonprofit, and so many things have happened in just
Yeah.
the last 2 years that have been
Yeah.
a crazy, crazy adventure. And just the amount of publishing and stuff we've documented and discovered just in the Texas turtle species has been just a really neat
Wow.
adventure. So we're just getting
2019.
started. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's been around a long time, and we've
Mm.
always like done stuff, but it wasn't an official nonprofit until recently. So like
Wow.
Carl
Okay.
had
Yeah.
it in the works for
So
a while.
he had wanted it to be something since
Right.
since 2000, since before 2007,
Right.
and
Exactly.
then 2019 is when it actually happened. When it, well, not
Yeah.
when it actually happened, but
Right.
when
Well, we
it,
finally got
yeah.
the paperwork, if that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense. The
yeah, yeah.
paperwork
That
finally
makes
happened.
sense. Yeah,
Exactly.
like
Like,
it's been happening since then,
right.
but like 2019 is when everything became official.
Yeah. It's like we
Yeah.
need to make this thing official and do all the
Mm.
paperwork
That's an
and be able
awesome
to get money
story.
for what we need. The
Yeah.
microchips, the pit tags, and all that
Mm.
stuff. So
Those are my favorite kind of stories where it's just like, right, it's either going to happen now or from 20 years from now, but it's going to happen,
yeah,
and then it
it was
finally
like I
happens.
said,
That's
it
a
was.
really nice story. I love that. That's an amazing story. What have you done in the past 2 years since it's become the official non-profit?
Okay, so 2020, obviously COVID hit.
Yeah.
So like I said, we were always doing other research and trying to publish and
Hmm.
do what I kind of we call as low hanging fruit type
Yeah.
projects, which can be as simple as documenting species in different states, what's
Yeah.
known in different counties,
Hmm.
what's known in these different counties and river systems, what's happening, just looking to see what's going on in the everyday lives of turtles,
Yeah.
trapping,
Hmm.
collecting DNA, collaborating with other groups, other
Yeah.
people, whoever
Hmm.
wants to collaborate and work with us. So we did
Awesome.
a lot of on the road, I think how even not scouting, but just kind of documenting species across the state of Texas,
Yeah.
going to places where okay, this turtle was known, we know that this turtle lived or was documented from this county. Let's go see what we see just by looking over bridges and taking photographs and coordinates and just documenting it from across the state. So we did a lot of driving,
Yeah.
just two or three of us whenever, Sal could come along. And I mean, I'm really lucky. I get
Mm.
to see some really pretty places in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas is big, but it's got a really great
Mm.
geography to it. East
Yes.
part of Texas has these piney woods, this very swampy bayou looking area, and then here in
Yeah.
central Texas we've got these great plains and these prairies and some of these cross timbers, forested areas,
Mm.
up to the panhandle, more open flat prairie lands, and then off to the desert, central
Yeah.
Texas, rolling hill countries, and very, you know, awesome geography happening. So
Yeah.
across the state, we've got such a varied region, which provides such different habitats for all kinds of animals,
Mm.
and to see what's going on. So simple stuff like that. It's just
Yeah. It
seeing
adds
what's going
it
on.
adds a lot to what you can research.
Oh yeah,
And
it adds a lot of aspect.
do you find turtles in all those environments? It doesn't seem some of those environments don't seem very turtly.
Obviously, in the up in the panhandle where there's less water,
Yeah.
you won't find quite the diversity as we do down in different parts where you can
Yeah.
go to any river. Like here, I can go to the river and see 5, 6 different species just
Yeah.
right there. So yeah,
Mm.
it depends on where you are, but it's also um, very significant to still look there,
Hmm.
because there may have been species documented as one area of Texas that we're wondering if they're still there anymore, because
Yeah.
it's such an oil area, oil
Oh,
fracking
yeah,
area that we kind of went last year. We're like, I wonder where they are if they're still here. So
yeah.
that's like something else we want to look into.
What
Different things
does
like that.
what's the environmental implications of that? Of someone, because it's like if they're living next to a tap area. I don't know if that's how you officially call it, but like a tap. You put
Yeah, the
where all
natural
these
gas
oil things.
stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I'm not
It's
privy.
okay.
There are, there's definitely the talk of what is and isn't of the natural gas stuff. That's a whole nother aspect that's
Yeah,
not
that's a whole
talked
different
here.
field.
The environmental aspect is there's organizations and friends, and we have a little bit of background of what's going on thanks to some friends that have done some work out there, but that's definitely out of my bubble. I can't
No,
talk
it's okay. Don't worry about it.
about
It's all good.
we have what we obviously think and what we kind of see when we go out there, what the water may or may not look like, what we've observed.
Yeah.
Some spots we've observed what looks to be really salty deposits on the water or
Oh,
like
okay.
where the water was. And so
Yeah.
we'll see. More to be done. Like I
More to
said,
be
it never
done.
ends. There's more to be done in
Yeah.
any part of the state, and there's so many people working on turtle stuff also in the state that
Mm.
it's amazing because there's no way one group or one university or one person can do it all.
Yeah.
It's
It's
really going to be it's really a collective
yeah.
effort from a lot of different nerds and passionate people. So
Yeah. The one thing I didn't realize before going to America is how big it is, how big it is, how big everything is. It's such a big landmass there. It's such a huge landmass, and I never realized that before I went there. Like I remember going to the Everglades, and there was this like watchtower going up.
mhm.
And there's like this big tower, and I climbed up it, and I look on the map, and the Everglades is like this big on the
Right,
map.
right.
But then I climbed to the top of this watchtower, and it goes on and on. It's huge. Like I can't see Fort Lauderdale or Miami
Right.
or any other structure which isn't like one of those raised houses made of like cheap wood. It was
Right.
huge and huge and huge. So to do what you're doing on the scale it must be a bit of a task.
It's a lot of driving. Like
Yeah, yeah.
just to get out of the area that we live in to
Mm,
see a different species, we have to go at least 2 or 3 hours to see a
yeah,
different species that we don't have like here that we need to look at.
yeah.
So Carl's used to driving. He's, a great cross the US.
Wow,
He's driven
yeah,
all over the world. He's
yeah.
done herpetology all across the globe pretty much. So
Mm,
he's used to driving these treks. So I'm used to being on the road now, and
yeah,
like I said, Texas has some really, really neat places other than great turtle diversity. I get to see some really, really beautiful locations that I think people don't realize that are out there. And I really
yeah.
like some of these small rural towns, even though there's a lot to them.
Yeah,
I see these dilapidated buildings, and I just start, and Carl makes this joke about me with even dilapidated old buildings, and I just kind of look at them and I imagine what they would look like when they were
yeah.
new and kind
Yeah,
of like peel the things back and visualize it. So I get to
yeah,
see all kinds of cool stuff other than turtles, and
yeah.
it's all fascinating to me. You learn so much just from
Mm,
even driving through some of these really small towns and
yeah. Well, no,
anyway.
I think it's the same for this country as well, like in Spain.
Right. Lots of
Because,
history.
yeah, and lots of places which are beautiful, but they're not on like a map. Technically, they're on a map, but they're not
Right.
like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I was driving 2 weekends ago. Me and my girlfriend rented a car here, and we drove around the small community that we're in. It's kind of like a state in Spain, and we went to some of these old little villages on these mountains, and they were incredible. They were beautiful, but there was no one there.
Yeah.
There was no one there. But like, it's like, whoa, this place is like incredible. And I went to this, I've been doing a lot of this where I've just been traveling to other people's towns,
Yeah.
which no one goes to, and they're beautiful. Yeah, I can imagine that's like doubly so in a landmass the size of Texas.
Yeah, it's very crazy. Like I said, it is Texas really, really is big. So a
Mm,
normal weekend for doing a 2, 3 hour drive there and back, or at least going out and camping one night and doing all the turtle scouting we need to do. I mean, we
mm,
do a lot of driving and lots of hours
yeah.
on the road.
Mm.
But
What are the kind of standout things that you find out? Because I personally find this group of animals really interesting. And when I try and photograph them, and through photography, I'm trying to like make people excited about animals, right? But like the turtles, like I love photographing them. It's hard to translate into like something I put up online or print, and then to get other people really excited about. But there's just so many different interests. Like I find how durable they are very interesting. But what interesting things have you found out about them?
Trying to think what the first thing that comes to mind, because we've been working with alligator snapping turtles,
Yeah.
especially here recently, is that there's this huge myth about snapping turtles and even turtles in general, that like farmers and ranchers want to kill and remove turtles from ponds,
Mm.
and they think that there's too many in a pond, and so far we haven't really gotten to where that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
They think that turtles eat all the fish, or that they're, can cause damage to something or the other. And of
Yeah.
course, people always wanting to go fish and all that, but they don't eat a ton of fish like I think locals think or want to
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
We've been at one of our study sites here locally. We can take the turtles for a couple days and watch what they poop out
Okay.
and watch what they pass. And we
Yeah.
can document from birds, snails,
Mm.
invasive stuff, and watching the whole variety of what a turtle eats. It's not just fish, and just the
Yeah.
variety and the diet. So that's one thing that we're currently working on
Mm.
with just a local site, is seeing what snapping turtles actually eat in the wild, and seeing
Yeah.
what they've had to eat, and just
Mm.
that whole aspect, and uncovering that little, some of that's already been documented, already known, but there's
Yeah.
always new stuff. Like we found something new a while back, and we sent that off to the journal for publication. That probably would come out in June, I hope. But
Awesome.
but so there's always something new to be discovered. I think the more, what Carl, the slogan is that there's this Texas-sized hole in our knowledge of the turtles
Yeah.
here. There really is. It's like we know a lot, but there's still so much we don't know, and
Yeah.
so there's constantly something we're learning. I mean, I think last few weeks we sent in about 7 or 8 natural history notes to like
Wow.
the
Yeah.
herpetological journal or something like that. So
Mm.
there's constantly stuff happening, and that's the one cool thing that I think that's been on the forefront of our mind, is what these turtles are eating and
Yeah.
what they're doing on
Mm.
a yearly basis.
Because that kind of dictates their lifestyle, isn't it? Was what they like to eat.
And that
That's.
goes into why they're so important, and
Mm.
why they're such a key critical part of the ecosystem. And what people don't realize is that turtles have an incredible biomass, and what
Yes.
their contribution to the ecosystem is like that of, a lot, unlike, unlike
Yeah.
sorry, I got tongue tied, is, more than any other reptile.
Yeah.
And I mean, from seed dispersal to
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up dead, decaying other dead animals, the dead fish,
Yeah.
versus eating the live fish, the, dead
Yeah.
fish, and scavenging, and then being food on, their part in the food web.
Mm.
All that is just an incredibly important aspect
Yeah.
of turtles. And I didn't get to say this in the beginning, but turtles and tortoises are now like the most endangered group of vertebrates.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one thing that we've also want to get out there and continue to raise awareness, is that we need to protect what we have now, and
Yes.
learn what we can, and continue to raise awareness about poaching and all these threats that come to turtles across the globe.
What
And
do poachers need from turtles?
so poaching's a big thing.
Yeah.
Poaching's even become a big thing, obviously, here in Texas. There's no commercial collection of turtles is not allowed in Texas anymore. So
Okay.
someone cannot go out, commercially collect, and import it to Asia.
Okay.
But poaching is still a cause. The
Mm-hmm.
alligator snapping turtles, them being just such an amazing looking turtle. The
Yeah.
shells, sell on the black market. The meat still sells. There's still people that have the idea and the turtle soup aspect that want to eat them.
Mm.
And it's not like your episode or story on deer. The turtle ecology is so very different than that of a deer.
Mm.
And it can't be something that can be hunted sustainably or reasonably or responsibly. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work because of their natural ecology of a turtle.
Mm.
So go ahead.
It would decline if I started commercially harvesting turtles, it would decline massively.
Very easily. And there is documentation, like I said, in some of these other books of the pictures of how alligator snapping turtles were in certain parts, and then the just amounts of shells and skulls that were taken out of a certain area back when
Yeah.
that was allowed. And,
Yeah.
there's sometimes not the before after of these population surveys. So that's also something that's going on, is different people doing population surveys to find out what
Yeah.
is and how many there are,
Hmm.
all those, little, like I said, those little aspects
Yeah.
of it. But going back to the poaching thing, is that there's still this crazy, how am I going to word this? There's still this crazy, rephrase this.
No, it's okay. It's a
There's a need and a desire and a want out of Asia for turtles.
Okay.
They farm them at an incredible rate
Yeah.
already, but they, for whatever reason, there's pet trade and food trade.
Yeah.
They still come to the US for different types of species and the more
Okay.
rare or wild caught species. So there's
Yeah.
a want and a demand for them from the US.
Uh-huh.
So the state right next to us, Louisiana, they allow the commercial take, not the commercial take, excuse me, they allow the take of one alligator snapping turtle per person per day.
Ooh,
So they have done a pretty good hit on their larger population and their, you
okay.
know,
I thought that was a critically endangered animal, the alligator snapping turtle.
no,
Oh.
It's protected here in Texas.
Okay.
Louisiana, it's open. Like
Yeah.
people can go out and say take one per day to eat it, and
Yeah.
taking one every day doesn't last very long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's.
pretty much they can do whatever. So a few years back, there was a case where some criminals from Louisiana, coming to Texas, poaching the ones in Texas, and then laundering them through Louisiana.
Right.
So
Okay.
Louisiana has
Yeah.
become a huge problem as a laundering state for many different turtle species of them
Yeah.
going out of Louisiana.
Jeez.
So
No.
that's
Yeah.
one thing that we have to be aware of. And when we tell people and try to tell, again, tell people why these turtles are so important, why they need to be protected, and that, hey, there's people after these turtles for a lot of wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And to send them overseas. And it's something that I think all of us turtle nerds and conservationists
Yeah.
are always try to find a way. Obviously it's going to have to be done through education and trying to still figure
Yeah.
out how we go about doing that.
Yes.
And one thing is that we have to tell everybody that these they're protected here in Texas, but they're still being poached or wanting to be poached out of Texas
Yeah.
and laundered. Same with all of our turtles.
And just to be, just in case anyone's come to listen to this from the deer video I did, to try and summarize that, you're saying that these animals can't be harvested in the same way deer can because they don't. Is it like their reproduction? They don't reproduce fast enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
because
Some alligator snapper turtles take a very long time to reach sexual maturity. Most turtles
Yeah.
take a long time with the lower egg output, and they're already, if the nests make it, obviously
Yeah.
they have the predators while they're in the raccoons, those animals that are going to predate on the nest. If those nests even make it, then those babies even making it to adulthood it's already slim for them.
Yeah.
If you go out and take out large breeding males and females, forget it. It takes a real hit real quick.
Yeah. So it's not a sustainable practice.
Exactly, not at all. Yeah, and in Asia they have massive turtle farms, and that's I'm definitely not trying to create any. That's why I'm trying to figure out how to word it. I don't want to create any, like I said, with all that hate going on.
Yeah.
Not where something I'm trying to shed light on, but it is definitely a problem where education needs to be shed on that aspect.
It's a problem on the international market.
Exactly.
Like it's a problem on the international market, and that's what it is. There's no outlying implications on that. It's there's a market. It's the same in what is it? What do we like to? There's something we love to eat in the UK. I think we like to eat certain types of sharks in the UK, like endangered sharks, right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with British people. It's just they
And that's the thing. And people always say it's a culture. It's this culture thing. Well, it's a culture thing that's going to have to change. Like it's not trying to be against any one specific culture, the people themselves, but it is something that for us to continue to have these animals and these organisms, and for all of us to,
Yeah.
have a functioning world,
Yeah.
it's something that's going to have to change through education,
Yeah.
and that's just how it is. They
No,
already going to
yeah.
face habitat loss, pollution, all
Yeah.
these similar same things that every animal's facing
Hmm.
currently. So throw that in there.
Yeah.
Poaching at high rates is just not a
It's not
good,
sustainable. It's not a good
right.
thing, and we
Not,
want to. And it's important to keep something sustained so that we can enjoy it
and
for
especially with
years.
an organism like turtles and tortoises with the incredibly high biomass. If you want to, anyone that wants to look into it, much more detail of the biomass and the role that turtles play in the ecosystem, there's a great article called, let me remember because I went blank. Where have all the turtles gone?
Hmm.
And why is it important? Why is it important? And why? Excuse me. Where have all the turtles gone, and why should we care? Or where have
Hmm.
all the? Why does it matter? By Jeffrey Lovich.
Yeah.
If you Google "Where have all the turtles gone and why does it matter?" Great article that tells everything, specifically the science behind why
Hmm.
turtles are important in our ecosystem. So
Yeah.
I can give it a
Yeah.
lot better than I can in this short amount of time.
No, it's okay. No, no, don't worry about it. No, it's not a problem at all. No, but no, I get that though. I get that. It's a it's a problem. It's a problem which is faced all over the world. It's just like I was saying just earlier. It's like the consumption of shark meat in certain parts of the United Kingdom,
Yeah.
and I think it's not so much the species that people like to eat; it's that we don't know what kind it is.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
more of the issue. So it's like, so it could be something where there's millions of them and they reproduce fine, so
Right.
it's all good. But then like because I think it's like they give the meat a certain type of nickname.
Mm.
So then like you could either be eating something which is sustainable or critically endangered. You don't know. And
Yeah.
that's where the issue. Yeah, it's all over the world. I get that. No, I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get that completely. That must be a huge problem though, because how on earth do you manage? How, or not manage it, but police it?
It's. It sounds like it's hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it it's that's up to the law enforcement level, the game warden level, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife level. That's their ballpark, and all
Yeah.
we I can do so far on my end is do the research and the science, and hopefully the conservation work here is creating awareness to all people on
Yeah.
why they're important and getting the message out. So
Mhm.
that's you know
Yeah. I
part of what
always no, yeah, no. And I always find one of the biggest. I don't know. Let me just say this. This is what I think. So like I've done no work to try and figure out if this is true or not. But what I'm about to say is something that I think. That gauging people's interest is probably one of the best forms of creating conservation people, or a want to conservation to
right,
conserve nature. So like if you can get a huge amount of people interested in a certain amount of animal, or just in the just enjoy their ecosystem,
right,
there's a stronger argument for conservation. Like I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out how to explain what rattles
right,
around in my brain for a little bit. I'm not a scientist. I'm
right,
not a. I came from film and like studying cameras and television and that. Yeah, so but I got into nature stuff because I thought it was fun. It was more fun than script writing, which I thought I wanted to do when I was a kid. But
right.
when I grew up, it was like this is the worst thing I've ever done. It's boring. It's awful. Oh, I hated it. Well, when you film an animal, you can spend all day outside, so it's that works out much better. And I don't know. I just feel like that's one of the best ways to get people on board is to say, hey, look, this stuff isn't just good for the environment. It's really
Right.
fun. There's a
Yeah.
lot. It provides something you can do in your spare time, which is actually like really engaging, and it
Yeah.
requires a lot of your senses.
The exposure and getting them to see one up close.
Mm.
And I mean, that's another thing that obviously we weren't able to do with COVID, is have turtle surveys that we had planned to
Oh
kick
man.
off
Yeah.
for and having more people out there exposed, like kind of working and seeing what we do and seeing the
Mm.
animals. And I think that creates the better bond with seeing why we do it and getting
Yeah.
to be in the mix of it
Yeah.
versus just online, and I can do Zoom presentations
Hmm.
all the time, and seeing them and being a part of of a group or a team working
Yeah.
towards a study or a
Yeah.
research project or whatever. So now that things are gotten a little bit better, I do have one survey coming up in May that I think is going to be hopefully our first real,
Hmm.
kickoff with a lot of a small group of fellow turtle nerds.
Yeah.
All of us who have been vaccinated. It's a big outside kind of event where we're going to try and go do some trapping and
Awesome.
catch our first group. So that's going to be our first big survey of
Yeah.
2021 to kick off. So
Awesome. Awesome.
excited to
That's
happen.
great news. That's fantastic news. What do you do on a survey?
Okay, so for instance, this next one we're gonna do, it's a wonderful private land. A lovely gentleman invited us out to this area he lives in, and he lives right next to these big creeks and water systems where alligator snapping turtles have been seen. So we're
Yeah.
gonna set, hoop traps with bait to catch. I've posted some of these pictures on my Instagram where we set a baited hoop trap
Hmm.
and wait for the snapping turtles to come in. We take the turtle out, take the measurements, the carapace,
Mm.
length, the plastron, the belly, the bell, what's the belly.
Yeah.
Take this whole series of measurements from head width to the tail, pre and post cloaca,
Hmm.
all these series of measurements. They get the microchip, or it's like a pit tag, we call it a pit tag, passive integrated transponder,
Yeah.
that has a number. We scan it so we can recapture that. Every time we recapture that turtle, we know that these are the measurements for this number turtle, just like the cat
Yeah.
or dog microchips.
Yes. Yeah.
They get a notch. We have, put a little notch in the shell because it's just like the fingernail tip, I guess. It's
Yeah.
keratin.
Hmm.
And so it puts in a superficial knot, little mark that kind of grows into this little stuff, but is not damaging.
Yeah.
So that's just another backup as far as a number, like number turtle number 2 with pit number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And
Uh-huh.
so you want to go out there every year, every twice a year, however it is, to collect years worth of data
Hmm.
uh, for a variety of turtles. You find all the species, you find out how many males to females they are. You can find out if the females are gravid, if they have eggs, especially this time of year, something we're looking forward to. So you can find a whole lot of information from just a survey and some of these simple natural history observations from
Yeah.
catching a few turtles or a lot of turtles. It just depends on, some days it's a lot, some days it's a few.
Yeah. No. No. Yeah. That's cool. Now, I was meaning to ask you this earlier in the interview, but I got a bit caught up in what we were talking about beforehand. But I'm hoping that there's a lot of people in this I'm hoping there's a lot of people watching this, but more so, I'm hoping that most of them don't know what an alligator snapping turtle is. Because
Oh,
I got a really funny I hope you'll find it funny story about how I found out what a snapping turtle or an alligator snapping no it's an alligator snapping turtle was.
okay.
I had a 20-hour layover in London Heathrow. You've been to that airport? It's a disgusting airport.
I
Oh,
remember going through it twice.
oh, oh! It's horrific.
Yeah.
It's so big. It's this huge airport, and it's just awful. It's clean. It's nice. All the staff are friendly, but it's just this like huge expanse where nothing exists. You have to go there because it's the most efficient airport in
Right.
the UK. It's a really good airport, but it's just you don't want to spend 20 hours there.
Right.
So I was
I don't
yeah,
like
yeah.
20 hours in any place that doesn't have
Oh,
turtles, man.
oh man, this was terrible. I spent like £5 or something for a coffee. I was
Oh yeah.
sat I was sat in the waiting room and I was on YouTube, right? And I'm scrolling through and I find a video of this guy who says he's gonna get bitten by this animal. And I
Oh
look at a
no.
picture of the animal and I'm like, whoa, what is this thing? So I'm already miserable because I'm in this airport. So I thought, I'm just gonna just give this a go. But then I started googling these animals, and you know, I thought this is really interesting. This animal is really interesting. It's a crazy looking animal. It's a crazy looking creature. I want to learn more about it, and I feel like other people need to know that this crazy animal exists. And I was going to ask. This is the question: what is an alligator snapping turtle?
It's the Western Hemisphere's largest freshwater turtle.
Mm.
It is the largest one here in North America. Like I
Yeah.
said, largest one for the Western Hemisphere. They are just incredibly large. They've got
Mm.
those three really big, awesome keels down the back of their
Yeah.
shell, and they, almost looks like the back of an alligator.
Yeah.
And so with that really sharp-looking head and that
Mm.
really sharp-looking beak, they just have this very neat, aggressive Godzilla-y,
Yeah.
which is why a lot of people want them for any poaching, the skulls, the shells, like I
Yeah.
mentioned,
Yeah.
not just the meat, the skulls, the shells, but as pets. It's
That's
is
really
which is the
weird.
crazy thing to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an incredibly, it's the river monster of the North America, where they, in their range here in North
Yeah.
America, the area they reside, southeastern part of the United States,
Yeah.
mostly, the
Mm.
big megafauna of the river here.
No, they're
Especially,
awesome. They're such cool.
yeah.
Like
I
they.
thought you were gonna say that's how you found us or found me.
No, no, I didn't
Was through
find.
the
No, I didn't find you guys. I found you guys. I think I found you guys on Instagram actually
yeah
directly.
yeah yeah
Yeah,
yeah
yeah. I found you guys. I don't know. But like this whole kind of thing that was born out of a miserable 20-hour layover became something that I really. It's one of the bucket list animals now, which is what I
oh
think. What
yeah
I'm. Yeah, it's one of my bucket list animals. The alligator snapping turtle, and I really want to try and push it out there. Like I come from a film background, reared on these ridiculous movies, and it's a really cool looking animal. That's what I'm trying to
yeah
say, and it's almost a shame that I didn't know it existed earlier. Because it's such a
I think
cool looking creature and such a crazy and a big creature. It's like
they can get huge. Yeah, they can get
yeah,
huge.
like I was reared on some of these like Godzilla horror movie things. And like I was reared on these films, and I was like, and for some reason it would have been pretty cool to know that some of these animals actually exist.
Well,
So I
when you
saw
get
them.
over here to Texas, we can go
Oh
have a
man.
whole weekend,
Yeah.
however long you want, to catch alligator stepping turtles. Because
Nah.
this one survey we're doing in May, I want to do it yearly or twice a year.
Yeah.
So you can come over when we're doing a survey,
How on
either end of
earth
this year or next year. Pick
Yeah.
a time in May, and I can arrange,
how
so
on
that way you
earth
can
did you
have a whole
catch
weekend
those?
about here with alligator snapping turtles.
I would love it. I would love that. But how on earth do you catch one of those guys?
Yeah, through the hoop nets. They get in that hoop net. There's a picture of
Oh yeah,
or
okay, yeah.
like
Yeah.
Coyote did. I don't know if that's what you were gonna say. Is the guy that had let himself get bitten? Coyote or my
I
friend
can't
Coyote.
remember if it was
Yeah, because he
I know
doesn't.
Brave Wilderness though. I watch Brave
Yeah,
Wilderness videos, but I don't
exactly.
know if it was that one or if it was another, or if it
Right.
was another
A lot of people have
researcher
done it,
or
and
yeah.
not a fan, and would do not a proponent of the biting stuff.
It
And
didn't
I'm
look like a
I,
fun time. I have to admit, it did not look fun.
well, those alligator can really take off a finger. There, if you Google, I can
Yeah,
send you this later if you ever want to put it up in the show. Of
yeah,
a young man in, I think, in Louisiana or somewhere here, and not in Texas, maybe in the south, another
yeah.
state, was
Mm.
messing with one, and if you're not careful, I mean, it took off his like
Took
finger,
his
like
yeah,
clean
wow.
off, like
Yeah.
perfectly. It was published in a medical journal of
Mm.
this young man like poking it with a stick and messing with it. I guess it caught it, and I mean, it's a really graphic, but to me
Yeah.
fascinating. It
Yeah,
shows
yeah,
the
yeah.
X-ray and it shows it just completely
Clean
bitten,
off.
clean
Wow.
off. And
Yeah.
I've never been bitten. Carl got bit, but like grazed.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were shooting for the Brave Wilderness Coyotes back when he had the Animal Planet show.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
were doing that, and we hear that that clap, because it's a very
Powerful clap.
deep
Yeah.
clap. It makes a really interesting noise. And I look over, and Carl just says, "Keep rolling," to the camera, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" He just says, "Keep rolling," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Carl lost his finger. We're out here,
What?
in the swamps. What's
Yeah.
gonna happen? And we look, and it was only just like
Oh, that's good. That's
that little
okay.
thing.
It's only a little bit of his finger.
Yeah, it didn't cut it off. It just got cut. Like it just
Yeah, yeah,
almost
yeah,
deep paper cut on both sides. But
yeah,
I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to how are we gonna do this?"
yeah.
But
But no,
it's
it's
quite
such
funny.
a how much do you know about those animals?
So
About
like I said, it's one of the active animals that we're actively studying.
mm,
And I mean, I'm lucky that I get to see them as much as I do, and I've gotten to see and handle and take in blood
mm,
and microchip tons of them. it
Yeah.
was one of those almost unicorns when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
never thought I would be working with them. Little kid me,
Mm.
obsessed with turtles. That being like the, you know, holy grail big one for
Yeah.
North America.
Hmm.
Um, Seeing it in the zoo,
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking that the only way I was going to see it was behind glass.
Mm.
And as much as I liked zoos as a kid, I didn't like them that much because I
Yeah.
couldn't be interactive or catching them or working with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I always wanted to be the one taking blood or microchipping or being the
Mm.
one hands-on with the animal and research and all that. So
Hmm.
I never thought I'd be working with them and seeing as many as I can and be
Yeah.
trapping on the weekends, pretty much in my own backyard in the area that I was
Yeah.
kind of born and raised. That they would be
Mm.
right here,
Hmm.
and so I mean, we get to see a lot and we get to work a lot with them. We've published quite a few things. We got a few more publications, like I said, coming out on them,
Mm.
and just a lot more work to be
Yeah.
done with it. They're awesome.
No, it's one of those animals which like a lot of I see a lot of animals like this where it gives color or depth to the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Everybody sees them as like fascinated by them in
yeah,
some
yeah,
aspect, whether it's
yeah,
maybe a little bit scary or fearful, or if that Godzilla aspect,
yeah.
whatever it is. That one's definitely the
Mm,
showstopper of the event or of what everyone
yeah,
wants to come see. I mean, everyone's lifer, and here I have probably handled, you know, over 40, 60, been able to
mm.
interact with lots of
That's
them.
no,
It's
it's
pretty lucky. It's really
I
phenomenal.
my kind of method, if you will, for conservation. Like I just make videos and talk to people. That's yeah, that's all I do. But my main thing is try almost convince people that animals like this are cool because they're cool. Like I know that's a
Right.
silly way
Like,
of putting
why
it,
are they
but
cool?
yeah,
Or,
but they're important because they're interesting and because they fill the world with so much intrigue and interest and and depth that there's something interesting about it and not just like having an animal like you said, like I've got nothing against zoos, but having an animal in a zoo, because if you have to actually go outside and look for it, there's
things
something.
that,
Yeah, there's so much more depth to that, and there's so much more mystery to that, and I think and that's that stimulates the brain so much more.
definitely
And
more. It's definitely something I think and wish more people would try,
yeah,
because
yeah,
and how to get someone excited and fascinated about something, and because there are a lot of people that I have known or had to interact with on a daily basis that are clueless, you know, and the
mm,
majority, I guess, of people don't have a clue of any of these animals or what it all means. And I've,
mm,
like I said, I've been alone growing up mostly until I found that there were other people like me, been alone. And so I know what it's like
yeah,
being around a lot of people that are just totally clueless or don't care, don't realize it, or don't understand
mm,
why I'm so interested or why some of us are so interested in it. But
mm,
I don't know. I think if people had more of a chance or give it a chance, it would open up their mind
yeah,
and I have a better appreciation for the world in general.
and
We'll see.
it's
I don't know.
no,
Maybe I'll
it's
figure that out one day.
but but I think it's one of the most important parts of what you do is that you study these animals and you try and bring them into a little bit of light
Mhm.
so that we so it kind of, how do I say this, it prompts us into being like, oh, they're valuable because they're interesting, they're valuable because they look cool and they're intelligent and
Yeah,
they
they're definitely smarter than people realize.
yeah, yeah. Have you found out anything about their kind of like, is this the main animal you work with, the alligator snapping turtle?
Right now it's been what we've done a lot of work with, but we do work with as much across the state as we possibly can. Right now, that's like I said, our active study site here, and what we're getting active study site in East Texas and stuff like that. So it kind of depends on the day. And like I said, with
Mm.
COVID now, kind
That,
of a little bit able to do stuff. So we're about to pick up on trapping and
yeah,
doing more stuff. Hopefully in East Texas here in the next year. I'll
yeah.
keep you posted, but hopefully more actual hands-on of our survey sites will be happening here in East
Hmm.
Texas in the
Sorry,
next year. So
I just wanted to go back. I wanted to ask you, this as you're saying it, but you're in the flow of something. I didn't want to interrupt. Why do you take the animal's blood?
Oh, sure. So there's for like basically have our own DNA database, DNA bank. There's
Hmm.
other organizations and other groups that do everything from genetics to find out anything and everything DNA aspect. So if we get it and we have stuff, frozen or preserved and our stuff, we can share that with any other biologist person that may need DNA from an alligator snapping turtle in Texas, and they can compare that to do whatever study
Hmm.
they need to do across the board. It helps with poaching,
Yeah,
finding out where one may came from, what, all that kind of aspect. So it's basically like ahead of time having
yeah,
our own little DNA bank. And like I said, there is another group and organization doing stuff like that to where we can
hmm,
send it off and share this DNA with
yeah.
anyone now. So
And these animals, you were saying this earlier in the interview, they're a keystone species. Is that what you were saying?
yeah. So everything from their role in the food web,
Hmm.
eating, being food for other animals, them eating other animals,
Yeah.
predator and prey aspect, seed dispersal. They
Hmm.
do a lot of seed dispersal, being the turbines, I guess you could say, of the water systems and rotating everything from the soils,
Yeah.
every little aspect of the ecosystem in that way. So, like
Hmm.
I said, that article, "Where Have All the Turtles Gone and Why Does It Matter?"
Yeah.
is like one of the great articles on all the actual little
Yeah.
details of why turtles are important and the whole ecosystem aspect of them.
I'm gonna try and find that and link it
Yeah, I'll
in the
link it.
bottom
Yeah,
description. Yeah, I'll
it's
try and
it's a
find that.
great it's a
Yeah.
great article. Came out a couple years ago actually.
I kind of fell not fell into this kind of reptile thing, but I've become far more interested in it ever since I did some filming with a Spanish herpetologist called Max Siepel.
Uh huh.
Um, and we were just walking out onto this grass, huge farmland, and out he comes with this 4 point something foot snake. It's like I would have walked straight past that.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of the same with these turtles. Even the big ones, you can walk straight past them. You have
Yeah.
no idea that they're there, but they're so interesting if you would know that they were there.
They're very cryptic, especially the alligator snapping turtles. Last year, I went out on my own because I had a weekend. Carl was tied up doing stuff at his house, and I said, I'm just going to go to East Texas and I'm going to
Mm.
just see what I can find, standing on overpasses and bridges and photographing, seeing what's out there. And I was
Hmm.
standing on an overpass. I think I made a post about this on our text turtle on my page. Just standing there for a minute, and a cottonmouth caught my eye, and I watched this
Oh,
cottonmouth
yeah,
kind of swim towards me. So I'm photographing the cottonmouth, and I
yeah,
just kind of sit there, and a lot of times there's nothing. We look over, there's nothing there. But if
hmm,
you wait a while, and if you kind of just sit there and observe and start to listen, and
yeah,
just kind of be there, things will start happening. You'll start
yeah,
seeing little things poke up that you didn't know were looking at you. And a lot of times it's that feeling, I'm looking over the edge and I feel like something's looking at me, but I can't see them. Something's
yeah,
looking back. So as
hmm,
I'm watching this cottonmouth come down the little creek water system, and this little creek didn't look like much. It didn't look like a big river where you're gonna find this 100-pound snapping turtle.
yeah,
I'm just following it with my camera, taking some blurry pictures. I'm like, God dang it, I'm not getting any good pictures. And I
mm.
look down and I see those three ridges of an alligator snapping turtle just
Oh,
surface. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is
oh,
one right under me. Like I could almost
oh,
jump on it, but I would break my legs.
oh,
Part of me was in my brain, like, do I jump on it? Do I put my camera down? Do I climb down there? I'm looking down, there's like ivy and twigs and branches and spiky things, all the
yeah,
way down the side of this. I couldn't get down there fast enough, but I see the three ridges of an alligator snapping turtle. Its head was down and it was just foraging along the bottom. Probably didn't even know that I was there. And the cottonmouth came right over the snapping turtle. I'm like, do I keep photographing? Do I video? Do I jump on it? What do I do?
wow, that's
I'm like, it
amazing.
was it was one of those moments like I couldn't believe my own eyes because it's how I know they're there. I know I could have seen one, but you didn't
Mm.
expect it. So seeing it surface and then just as quickly disappear.
That's
Like couldn't
so
even see it.
cool.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. So at the same time, Carl had called me. I'm like, why are you not out here? Why are you not
Yeah.
here? We're gonna be jumping on this thing. We're
Ah,
trying to find a way down there. And it
mm.
just went under the overpass and there it went,
And
continued
off
on
it
its
went.
way.
No,
So
yeah,
it was just one of those
that's
amazing
amazing.
moments that you don't think is actually gonna happen until it does, and you're like, well, it happened.
Yeah,
It was
that's
very
amazing.
cool.
like an alligator snapping turtle is probably the size of this table. Like a big 100 pound one might be the
Easy.
size of my
Easy.
table. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
100 pounds is that's definitely about maybe 40 kilos. That's a big
Right.
animal. That's a
Right.
huge. That's half of my. That's pretty much almost over half my body weight. That's a big animal.
Yeah,
That's
they're big. The biggest female we have documented was one of the first ones here at our North Texas site, and she was 71 pounds,
mm,
just over, and she was
yeah.
the largest female documented for alligator snapping turtles. So she's pretty big. So
She's
that's
pretty
really
big.
exciting. Yeah, I think she's
That's
also on our Instagram page. She had cataracts. You
oh
know, she's
okay.
so old. So you could tell how their shell's weathered and worn,
Yeah
and
yeah.
it looks smoother. It almost starts to smooth out,
Mm,
versus those ridges. It gets just like, worn over time. It's
yeah.
very, very interesting. You
Did
know
they
how
live for
old
a
they
long
look.
time? Those animals. You said it's
Yeah,
quite old. They live for a long
very old.
time.
They get very old. You can see how in their face just how old they get, and they
Yeah.
turn this yellowy color, and it
Mm,
varies between turtle, each turtle, but it's quite,
yeah.
like I said, so much. There's so much
There's so
just
much
on
to
them
learn. Yeah. There's
to
so much
learn.
off just off
But yeah,
then. Yeah. No, that story of the kayak's really cool. It's basically like seeing an alligator under your boat.
right,
It's
right, right.
basically like seeing an alligator under your boat, except something that's a little crazier looking.
Yeah, it was. I was definitely not expecting it, but it was exciting. Yeah, I
Oh
didn't know if
wow.
I should jump on it, and I looked
That's a.
down. I was like, "There's no way I could jump on this without breaking
I'm
my
not.
leg."
I'm not sure if I'd jump on it. I don't know. I don't think. I don't think I would. I got a little nervous at the 4 point something foot snake, so I'm not sure if. And I'm not sure if the 100 pound alligator is going to be my thing to jump on.
Oh yeah, I want to do I wish I could do alligators. That would be, if I lived in Florida, I would be an alligator croc girl
Yeah.
for sure. That's where I would have probably been working with.
Yeah. They were some. There's some cool. You got those in Texas, don't you?
Yeah, we do have
Alligators.
gators.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we do.
crocodile. I think I've seen an American crocodile, maybe just a glimpse of it, but not for long. They were quite hard to find, but I know they're there.
Yeah,
Just got to try and
and they're
find them.
protected,
Yeah.
protected down there. So
Well, they're endangered, aren't they, down
yeah,
there? Mm.
yeah, yeah. That's like the lonely, yeah,
Yeah.
spot.
Well,
Yeah,
no, the Texas alligator snapping turtle is definitely a big one on my bucket list
yeah,
for
they're
for
very
sure.
awesome.
They're such an incredible animal. They're such an interesting animal. Unfortunately, I'm running a little bit out of time. But I always try and end things because we talked a little bit about poaching and especially
Right.
nowadays that can get a bit out of hand. But I want to end things on a positive note. What can people who may or may not be interested in alligator snapping turtles or conservation, what can they do to help, even if it's just a little bit, with the conservation of turtles and nature in general?
Sure. We have a donate website that goes to all of our resources that we need to do our
Mm-hmm.
study site. Sell some shirts, being an advocate for turtles as far as protecting them, crossing the road and the way they're going,
Mm.
looking out for them, helping debunk any myths. Because, like I said, there's still all these myths of people wanting to kill turtles for whatever various reasons.
Mm.
Reaching out to us for any questions like that they may have, any questions on myths, or another reputable turtle nerd, turtle biologist in your area. Ways to help out in that aspect, documenting what turtles they do and don't see,
Mm-hmm.
like taking a picture of it. I think using some other apps online that people want people to report sightings. So looking for what's native in their region as far as what scientists and biologists are looking for specific
Mm-hmm.
species and reporting stuff that way. So yeah, it's a very various reasons and various ways of being an advocate for turtle research and conservation and getting kids and other people excited about it. Or if you're interested, just like I said, message us, email us with any questions, and our website's texasturtles.org.
It's been awesome having you here. Thank you so much for your time. I'll put all of your links down below because I would call those reputable links.
Yeah.
I would call those very reputable links. I'll put them all down below so
If
people
I'm
can
wrong,
see
tell
the
me,
website.
because things change and I
Ah,
don't remember everything on the moment.
no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll put all your links down below so people can see you, Texas Turtles, and the work that you do. And this has been a really interesting conversation. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was awesome. It was fun. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. No worries. All right.